What happens when the talent is there, but the system keeps signalling that you don't belong, or at least it feels that way? Well, in today's episode, I want to explore what it takes to not only get more women into tech, but keep them there, help them thrive, and ensure that their stories are seen, heard, supported, shouted from the internet airwaves. That's what we're going to do today, because Sue Harnett, founder and CEO of Rewriting the Code, is going to be joining me on the podcast. And her organisation is supporting a global community of more than 35,000 women in tech. From college students to early career professionals, they've created a movement that combines mentorship, hands-on experience, and safe spaces for women to explore, connect and grow. But this conversation goes far beyond statistics and initiatives. At its very heart, we're talking about a story of belonging, what it takes to foster it, why it's still so fragile in tech, and what happens when political headwinds threaten to push inclusion back underground. And this is something that I'm very passionate about because I've been doing this for 10 years. And 2-3 years ago, I would say the vast majority of large enterprises in the world, all those household names that you know, they went out of their way to champion diversity in tech. But those same enterprises that now have very lucrative government contracts are going out of the way to bury those questions. And on more than a few occasions, I have been asked not to ask questions around this. And if you work for one of those organisations, maybe you've seen a similar backtrack as well. But as a man that doesn't have a lucrative government contract, I suppose it's much easier for me to shout about what is right here. And my guest today is going to be sharing her personal journey, a journey that shaped the foundation of Rewriting the Code, the rise of programs like Black Wings for Black women in tech, and how the organisation is responding to urgent demand with new programs focused on AI and cybersecurity. So we'll talk about all that and her work, which is incredibly important, especially considering the recent closure of other women in tech organisations and caused largely by the loss of funding from partners due to that DEI backlash. So in a world where the conversation around diversity in tech has suddenly gone quiet again, what can we all do to reignite it and ensure the next generation of women don't have to question where they belong? But enough from me. Time to officially introduce you to the inspirational Sue Harnett, founder and CEO of Rewriting the Code. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Neil. My name is Sue Harnett, and I am the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization that supports a global community of women in technology. We have about 35,000 members around the world that consist of college women and early career professionals. And we support them with career opportunities, exploration in tech, mentorship, and trying to make it more welcoming to be a woman in technology.
It's absolutely phenomenal what you've achieved and what you've created here. And at the end of every episode, I always say technology works best when it brings people together. But uniting and connecting 35,000 plus talented students from around the world is just phenomenal. But Rewriting the Code has grown into this largest global network for women in tech. But I suspect there is a big origin story there. So tell me why you founded RTC and the gap it fills in the market, because there's always a big story behind this, right?
Yeah. I would say that the impetus was really in my personal experience. And I have to just share that I am the furthest thing from an engineer or a technologist. That is not what I studied, nor what I worked in. But what is so important to me is making sure that everyone feels like they belong. And I think most people have a story where there's been an experience in their life where they felt like they didn't belong. And my personal story that is most aligned to why I created this was my journey growing up as a New Yorker, a first gen student. My dad was in World War II and came back and went straight away to work. But I played basketball. And I will say my superpower is that I'm 6'4", and had an amazing bunch of teammates and a lot of success. And that offered me the opportunity to go to a very prestigious university that otherwise would never have been available to me. I received a scholarship, went to Duke University in North Carolina, and I could have landed on Mars. I just did not feel like I fit in academically. I would go to the classroom and just try and disappear. I didn't participate. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And it was finally when I sat down with some of my teammates who I was really getting to know quite well and looked up to and said, I just don't know if this is going to work out. And they said some of the most important words that I have ever heard in my life, and that was, we felt the same way, and you're going to be great. And it worked, and I was silly enough to believe them. So when I learned about the fact that women were going to college and wanting to study computer science and engineering and taking that first class, but feeling so discouraged and feeling like they were losing their confidence, that they oftentimes would drop the major immediately, right after one class. And then some would go on to the second class, and there would be another big drop off. And at the end of the day, women have represented about 1 in 5 of the computer science graduates in the US. And that number in the UK is 18%. So I just felt like I could contribute to folks that didn't have to walk away from what they were passionate about by really grounding them in a community of women who shared their interests.
And I cannot applaud it enough what you've done here, because I think the tech industry, more than any industry, needs diversity of thought in order to solve complex problems. And yet, as someone that goes all around the world to various tech conferences, every time I look around at an arena of, 10,000 plus people, and I still see a very narrow demographic there. And yes, it has improved, but at the same time, this year, we've seen some leaders urging companies to maybe ditch DEI initiatives. And I think we need to shine a light back on this. So why is it so important that companies go out of their way to include women in tech roles? What benefits do they see? And ultimately, what benefits does humankind see too? Because I think it's so important we shine a light back on this.
I think that is such an incredibly important question, Neil. And I would say that some of our closest partners have shared a similar culture and philosophy with me. And what I've learned from them, the ones that are really dedicated to this, think about their customers. This is a financial and business case issue. If you're going to try as a business to market your products and services to as many people on the planet as you possibly can, you have to have engineers who have similar life experiences, come from different backgrounds, in order to create the best product. And no one can know what it's like to come from a background that's dissimilar to theirs and represent what they need. So it's been proven time and time again, lots of studies, that diverse work teams really are more profitable. And at the end of the day, that is the business case of why. But I also think that it's a systemic issue. And one of the things that we're really trying to support is to provide, a welcoming, supportive, safe community so that women feel like they do indeed belong.
And you run so many different important programs, and I'd love to shine a light on as much of your work as I can today. And for people listening that are hearing about you for the first time and may not know about some of those programs, how would you describe the Black Wings program, what it is, and why you created that too?
Yeah, this is a program that I am so incredibly proud of. When you look at the percentage of women, we talked about 20% graduate with these degrees and about 25% women in the technical workforce. For Black women, that number is 2%. So we thought it was really, really important as we grew our community starting in 2017 that when we got to a sizable enough number that we really needed to start to create communities within the community that didn't have to explain themselves to each other, that shared commonality. And the very first group that we focused on with this was our Black and African American community. And I got to know several women in rewriting the code, and who identified as Black. And I asked 5 of them from very different backgrounds if they would come together and put something together where it could be their community, something that they could very proudly share with their one of their close friends and say, you should join this community. And those 5 women who I'm still in touch with today, I am proud to say took this from a community of about 250 women at the time to over 5,000 Black engineers across the world. And those women, and it's human nature, right? Like we all tend to do our best when we have things in common with people and we find our people. And not to say that ethnicity or race is a unique the only identifying factor, but it's certainly a big one. And these women are thriving. They support each other just like our overall community does, but it's just so deeply meaningful to them to have the support of being not only a woman in tech who is underrepresented, but that second layer that a lot of women just don't have to really experience.
And I really think we need to repeat that stat you said there. It's such a powerful stat. Just 2% of the entire tech workforce is made up of Black women. So what does that number tell us about the state of the industry, and how are you at Black Wings aiming to change that?
I think that, again, systemically, I have to say that in many businesses and certainly in the tech industry, it is always been dominated by men,
Yeah.
and particularly white men. And I think if we were to say, hey, name the top 5 tech leaders that you can think of, we would hear names like Bill and Mark and Jeff.
Yeah.
We don't hear any women's names. It's rare that we actually get exposed to a woman leader, let alone a woman CEO. One of the women I follow very closely and admire so much is Lisa Sue, who's the incredibly successful CEO of AMD.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that Lisa and a small number of women are running these companies. And that's where we're just trying to get more women into the workforce to really start to change that.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little research on you, and there's some incredibly powerful individual stories that really just bounce off the page. I think there's Adia's climate focus game and Latoya's transition into quantum tech. And these stories are so important and so important to shout about and get them out there. But why do you think it's so important to spotlight these very, very personal journeys? And how do they reflect on the wider mission of your community too?
Yeah, such a great question. And it gets back to sort of that phrase, if you can see it,
Yeah.
you can be it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so very important for young women to have role models. You know, growing up and being absolutely fanatical about basketball, I had a lot of incredible women that came before me that inspired me. And when I looked and saw what they were able to do, I believed in my heart that I could do it too.
Yeah.
And we need to spotlight women. We need to share the incredible work that they're doing. There's just absolutely no reason that a woman couldn't do anything in technology that a man could do. And oftentimes it's just providing inspiration and opportunity.
And I think with so many well-documented programs out there, like Women in Tech that is closing and Girls Who Code also having an extended closure, what pressures or opportunities has that created for communities like your own at RTC? And how has your recent support from Pivotal Ventures, has that helped shape the future of your work? Because it's such important work, but it needs support too, right?
Absolutely. I was really heartbroken to see some of those organizations not be able to continue. The CEO of Women Who Code, who at the time it closed, Julie Elberfeld was a friend, and when I first met Julie, she was at Capital One, and Capital One was one of the first companies that came on board to be a partner of rewriting the code. So for the leaders and the employees of those organizations who really just are so socially impact minded, and their members, it was really upsetting. You know, a lot of times you think about success, right? And people ask, like, is it skill or luck? And I'm a big believer that it's both.
Yeah.
And meeting Pivotal Ventures and that incredible team under the direction of Melinda French Gates just came along at a time that has turned into just such an incredible relationship. To be as devoted to trying to change the world for women as that organization is, and them believing in us and the work that we were doing, and to get behind it financially, has allowed us to really focus on some of the biggest challenges that the women have, and allow us to be able to impact at scale. And we had a 3-year relationship with an initial grant, and I received an incredible phone call on a Friday afternoon in December, where they really doubled down and made a very significant grant for us. And the combination of being supported by companies as well as philanthropists is what a lot of nonprofits need to be able to do the work at scale that we're incredibly devoted to doing.
And I've been recording this podcast for 10 years now. And 5 years ago, I started to see a lot of businesses talking about inclusion, talking about diversity, equity, inclusion in particular. 2, 3 years ago, people were fighting over themselves to shoehorn this into every conversation that I had. Now, sadly, in 2025, I'm hearing from big tech companies that are going out of their way to not talk about it, which is a huge problem. And many companies talk about inclusion, but how can they move beyond surface level commitments and get back to truly supporting and retaining black women in their workplaces? Because it felt like we'd made some big improvements, but we seem to be going backwards again.
Couldn't agree more. And backwards we are.
Yeah.
So it takes very strong leaders and boards of these companies to not acquiesce to the fear that has been instilled, particularly in the US market, over the last several months. And I have been spending a lot of time visiting with our partners in person, right? Because this is all about relationships and wanting to align with organizations that really truly believe in their culture, that this is important. And I would say the very vast majority of the companies that we have the absolute privilege to partner with have not lost their passion for supporting diverse communities, providing opportunities to those who didn't have them before. I think it's really ingrained in a lot of the companies that we work with every day. I do think there's a lot of fear out there right now, and there's a bit we joke internally and kind of call it the Underground Railroad. We have to keep doing what we're doing, but do it a bit under the radar at this moment in time. And I think that a lot of companies are very devoted to that. I don't see very many turning their backs. We have signed new partners. We have expanded our work within companies to include corporate social responsibility and social impact. And I see those organizations, as well as our organization, continuing to do the work.
And although we are talking about the tech industry, I just love that we're talking about the importance of relationships, sharing personal stories, social responsibility and impact, and the power of that. And for any members of your community listening today, I'd love to give them a voice. But what are some of the most common challenges that your members are facing during everything from recruitment to early career stages? And how are you helping them overcome some of these barriers too?
Yeah. And that's really at the crux of what we do.
Yeah.
These students, both men and women, who are pursuing these types of careers have so much outside the classroom that they have to know to be successful. And instead of reinventing the wheel all the time with each new student trying to figure this out on their own, organizations like ours have said, listen, we are going to leverage the incredible learnings of the women who have come before you. We are going to provide you with mentors so you don't have to go this journey alone or figure out the rules of the game alone. I think it's pretty daunting when a young person, woman or man, has to whiteboard in front of maybe 2 or 3 company engineers as part of an interviewing process. And some of what we do is to provide them the tools and the mentors where they can actually practice that. They can do mock interviews. They can have their resumes reviewed. They can explore where their interests most align with the incredible number of tech roles and industries where they can apply those roles as an engineer. our mantra is that every company is a tech company. And for a lot of young people, the younger you are, the shinier the big tech companies are. And it's almost another rung on the ladder that you have to achieve to kind of prove that you are doing your absolute best and succeeding. And the big tech companies are amazing. We have had a partnership with NVIDIA since we started, and they're one of my favorite companies to work with because they're incredible with students. But there's a whole world out there. A lot of the women in our community at one point in time thought, maybe I'll go into medicine. Maybe I want to be a doctor. And how exciting would it be for them to be able to combine their passion for technology in the application of medicine? And those are the types of aha moments that we're trying to provide to the young people. If you love sports, if you love healthcare or education or cars and mobility, space, whatever it is, there is a job and a career out there for you.
Oh, absolutely love it. And if we, for anybody listening that may be potential members of your community, or members of your community, or people wanting to find out more information, what are some of the most powerful programs, events, resources, etc., that you offer to your members? And what new programs are you excited to launch or work on throughout this year and indeed beyond?
Oh gosh, this is so exciting to talk about. Um, First of all, any woman who is between their first year of university and about 6 years of professional experience, so that's about a 10-year window, is invited to join. There is absolutely no cost to our members. No one. We're trying to take barriers away and provide as much access for this help that we can possibly provide. So that's first and foremost. And we have a virtual component of what we do, and we have an in-person component of what we do. And we use Slack as an amazing private vetted channel for women to be able to connect with each other. Lots of different communities within Slack, depending upon your technical interests, your background, where you live, lots of different opportunities. But with the summer coming up, is one of our favorite times of year because that's where on the student side of the organization, thousands of our members are interning around the world. So I mentioned I was from New York City. I'll just admit my bias and use that as an example. We'll have over 300 of our women interning in New York. And one of the things that you can do this summer, whether you're in New York or London or San Francisco, Seattle, and so on, is you can actually meet your peers that maybe you were talking to online. You can deepen those friendships. You can find out about what their experiences are during the summer at their company where they're interning. We also have lots of events. It could be anything from a social to getting together. I'm going to be taking a group of women to ride the Staten Island Ferry, just to get together and do something, fun and get to know each other. And then once you have those relationships, then you're really going to want to participate and go with your friends and meet up with other women like yourself to visit our tech partners that happen to be located in those cities where the women are interning. So whether it's Bank of America or Duolingo or Netflix or, the list goes on, you can walk through the doors of these tech companies and you can meet the engineers, you can listen to panels, you can talk to your peers, and you can get a vibe for the culture. So that's a lot of what we're up to in the short term. One of the most exciting things that we're doing in 2025 is standing up two very important programs. We are calling it Rewrite AI and Rewrite Cybersecurity. And the purpose of this is, in response to the community, is to help the women understand and learn and develop skills in each of those very exciting areas of technology, where not only can they get a job tomorrow, but it becomes a potential career path. I mean, everybody's talking about AI now, but what does that really mean? And what are all the different types of AI jobs? And how are different companies using those that technology within their company? And a lot of our partners have already come on board for this. We'll be doing in-person events, we'll be doing virtual events, but the purpose is really to expose, to educate, to point women to resources of where they can upskill, and then eventually help them find jobs in areas where they're really interested.
And one of the things that really stands out for me is how you're not only focusing on professional development, but also on building a genuine sense of belonging. And I think this comes at a time where the world is obsessed with new technologies. And as you said, AI, everyone's talking about AI. But the most important part of making any tech project a success inside any organization is people and culture and belonging and different ways of solving problems, etc. But bringing it back to you here, what does your community look like in this space, and why does it matter so much?
It matters because technology is not a solo sport.
Yeah.
It's a team sport. And if there's one message that I would love every young woman to hear, is that you should not even try or want to do it alone. First of all, it's not as much fun.
Yeah.
Like this is a industry where you are coming together with others to jointly try and solve problems. And, you know, having different people's perspective, like we talked about earlier, to solving those problems is just so incredibly exciting and gratifying. And we just really try and reinforce that, because that's how you'll be doing your work within companies. And we really want the women to feel it and see it and believe it. And everything that we do in this organization is based around trying to make women feel welcome, accepted as they are, because they're enough. They have so many pressures on them, and I admire the women so very much. I couldn't do what they do, but I also want them to believe that they really can do this. And I just feel so strongly that sometimes even the smallest bit of inspiration, or taking the time to talk with someone and understand who they are and what their goals and dreams are, can really change a person, can really say, wow, like someone cares about me, and someone really thinks I could do this. So instilling that culture is what we're all about. And as a leader, I and for everyone on our team, we always demonstrate vulnerability, because if you Stanford actually termed the phrase duck syndrome, where it looks like, if you ever see ducks in a pond, they look so serene, just gliding across the water. But underneath, they're kicking and pushing as much as they possibly can. And I think it takes a lot of vulnerability and trust to be able to say, you know what, everybody's feeling the same way I do.
And for any business leader that's listening to our conversation, maybe they're inspired by everything that they've heard. Maybe it's a timely reminder that they need to be doing something about and playing a part, an active role. What can their company be doing right now to get involved with you?
Oh my gosh, we would welcome the opportunity to talk to any company, because we would love to have the opportunity to connect their engineers to our young engineers or our budding engineers who are in university. Those conversations and storytelling are just so important in the retention of these women pursuing this career because it's hard. They also can dial into our community to find tremendous talent. I talked with a gentleman in New York last week who is starting a company, and I loved that he said, I just think it's so important that our third engineer, that's how early they are, needs to be a woman because we need that diversity of thought. And if we don't very intentionally try and bring those women in as soon as possible, I'm going to wake up one day and we're going to have 30 white male engineers.
Yeah.
And that's not what we need for our company. That's not what's best for it. So we have all the talent that's hard to find. We've aggregated it into this incredible community so we can help there. And if the culture of some of these incredible company partners that we have is similar to folks that we don't yet have had the opportunity to work with, I would say that, philanthropically, this is really important. It's really important at this moment in time, and I think tech leaders should think about their communities and really wanting to make sure that women, sisters, daughters, wives, spouses, everyone has a personal connection to women. And I think one of the most important communities that I love to work with are women themselves, women who have been really successful and can maybe take a little bit of time to pull the next generation up. So they can come to our website. My email is on there. You can email me directly. You can follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. But the more folks that we can identify to help us with this precious mission is just phenomenal.
And I think one of the most powerful messages for everyone listening to this podcast is if you are a girl, a woman of any age, sister, wife, mother, even grandmother, who's maybe reined themselves in throughout their career or ambitions and thinking that, hey, maybe this space isn't too welcoming for me or I don't belong there. We need to bust that myth once and for all. And I think the work that you're doing is going a long way towards that. So for anyone listening, maybe they are listening thinking, I feel inspired. I should be doing something here. I'm going to go for it. Where can they find you or your team online or find out more about anything we talked about today? Because I think some of those personal stories that I referenced earlier, for example, really just show the power of the possible, or the art of the possible.
Oh, absolutely. So our website is rewritingthecode.org. And you can find out so much information. We're actually very busy creating our new website that's going to launch in very early July. But there's incredible information on there today. And on Instagram, we're at Rewriting the Code. So lots of different ways to follow us. LinkedIn as well. Just put a search in there and you can absolutely connect with us. You can send an inquiry form into us. And myself and my team will respond to everyone that reaches out to us.
Well, I'll be adding links to everything, so anybody listening will be able to just click on that, find you nice and easily. And thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today, share your incredibly powerful story and indeed insights. But before I let you go, we have a bit of a tradition here on the podcast where I ask my guests to leave one final gift, and that is either a book they'd recommend that listeners check out that we'll add to an Amazon wish list, or a song for our Spotify playlist. What would you like to leave everyone listening, and why?
I would love to recommend the book Grit.
Yeah.
Famous book. Angela Duckworth is just a renowned psychologist and has made so many contributions to all people. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that she talks about is that it really comes down to perseverance and putting in the time and effort. Some people have a bit more natural ability than others, but anything that you really want out there in life, whether it be to be really good at a sport or to be able to go to college or a certain college or a dream job, you need to put in the work. It's just something that if you want to aspire to really the dreams that you have, no matter what they are, I think she just does such an incredible job of laying out how you really can achieve that. And really, you can do anything you set your mind out to do. And I reference that book all the time. And I think it's really inspiring for everyone.
Fantastic choice. I'll get that added to our Amazon wish list. We covered so much in our conversation today, and I'd love to finish by hammering home that stat you mentioned earlier in our interview, that just 2% of the tech workforce is made up of Black women. And I want everyone listening to consider this their call to arms, whether it be a woman looking for work or an enterprise that wants to help women into work, because I think the work you're doing here in creating this better understanding, addressing the unique experiences of women during recruiting and well into their careers, I think it's so important. So I applaud you. Kudos to you for what you're doing here. There's an open door to come back on here at any moment if you've got anything you want to shout about in the future. But thank you for bringing all this to life today.
Thank you, Neil. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Wow. So many big talking points here. And one of the big things that stood out to me in this conversation with Sue is the reminder that technology may be built with code, but it is sustained by community. From peer support in Slack channels to summer meetups and mentorships, rewriting the code is offering more than resources. It's offering a sense of belonging that's still missing from far too many corners of the tech world. And as Sue highlighted during our conversation there, how many female tech leaders can you name right now? I suspect that once you've gone past 3, maybe 4, you're going to start struggling. And one of the most sobering insights came in that stark statistic again. 2% of the tech workforce is made up of Black women. For me, that's not just a gap, it's an alarm bell. And at a time where political pressures are prompting some companies to quietly retreat from their commitments to inclusion, the work at rewriting the code has never been more vital. Whether through AI or cybersecurity programs or simply the act of showing up, being more visible, they're proving that change doesn't just require funding. It requires will, consistency, and leadership. So what about you? Are you a hiring manager, a founder, or a woman wondering if tech has space for you? What can you do to be a part of a more inclusive future? One where your sisters, your wives, your mothers, and your grandmothers feel welcome. I want to hear your thoughts. Please reach out, join the conversation. techblogwriteroutlook.com, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, at Neil C. Hughes. But that is it for today. So thank you for listening as always. Please come back, join me again soon, and we'll have another topic lined up for you. And hopefully I will speak with you all then. Bye for now.